Welcome back, guys. So do you remember the BittBoy? Just a couple months ago, we took a look at the BittBoy, the new BittBoy, the version 2. But now we have the version 3 BittBoy. So the BittBoy organization hit me up and said, hey, do you want to take a look at the new BittBoy? And I was like, hell yes, I want to take a look because the previous version I didn't really care too much for, even though my opinion is it may not be for me, but you may like it. But there was issues with emulation, so on and so forth. And hopefully that's been resolved with this. So that's what we're checking out today. But not just that. We're going to check out the firmware that it shipped with, plus the newer version of the custom firmware. So here's the box. Definitely a little nicer slip box compared to the previous version. The BittBoy logo down there. All that good stuff tells you what it comes with, I guess. Supports external micro SD card. You do need a micro SD card for this to work. Supports some new systems, and we'll get into that in a moment because it's kind of bogus and boo-boo-ness that it supports so much that it can't really handle. Headphone jack, save games, cool. This time you can actually save your games. The previous time you had to use save states. This does now supposedly support in-game saves. 2.4-inch IPS screen that has a glass lens cover. Full screen, original resolution, bunch of options. Screen brightness adjustment, 700 milliamp hour battery, 2 to 3 hour battery life. TV out. But the thing with this one is it doesn't come with the TV out cable like the previous version did, or at least mine didn't. So there's the BittBoy. Let's take a look at what it comes with. We get a nice little one-page basic functionalities sheet, how to adjust volume, how to adjust brightness, and how to play this thing. Rather lackluster, because actually playing games on this is a little more involved than the previous version. And then our accessories. So I did get the little charge cable, and boom, in your face, we did get a micro SD USB adapter. Comes in handy to add games, do all that good stuff. And my version did ship with an 8 gigabyte SanDisk Edge micro SD card. Now, there's a little bit of controversy with this, right? So this card has game ROMs included, but on their website, it states that there are no ROMs, there are no games included with the system. So either they are lying and it does ship with ROMs, because there's Super Nintendo, NES, Sega Genesis. There's games on here that this company doesn't have license to. I know that. You know that. They Soulja Boy'd it up here. But either they're lying and it does come with ROMs, or they're sprucing it up a little bit for reviewers to showcase what this thing can do. Either way, it's a little shady. Some people may not like that. Legitimate companies, that make devices like this, they may ship it with some licensed stuff, or leave it open so you can add your own stuff, but they typically don't ship with that kind of stuff unless you're Soulja Boy. But hey, it is what it is. We take a look at a little bit of everything on this channel. Let me wipe up that screen. But I did think it was of importance to let you guys know that it did ship with ROMs, and their website said it doesn't, and I cannot confirm if shipping to anybody if it comes with ROMs or not, because for some people that's going to be important for one reason or another. But here we go. I really don't notice too much of a difference between this and the previous version. I think maybe the bezel's a little darker. I do have dust behind the screen, which kind of sucks balls. On the back, that's the other difference. It's that barcode. It says 2019-04-10. So is it April 10th, 2019? That's about the time they hit me up, said, you want to check this out. So maybe they personalized it, the date that they first contacted me. I don't know. 700 milliamp hour battery in here. This thing is a bitch to open. There it is. Same little crappy battery. A couple hours of life. Now, I do have 2 micro SD cards. This one that's in here, I reflashed the firmware that it came with. And then this one has the new custom firmware. We're going to check out both. But the one thing I do want to point out is that I wouldn't get this for like a kid, for a real young kid, because even my dumbass screwed this thing up. So the micro SD card with the firmware, I jacked it up and nothing was bootable anymore. So I had to reflash it Because it's not as simple as just selecting your game. You got to navigate through. I messed up something. I don't know what, but I messed something up. So I just wanted to point that out. But here is the screen. You see I have a Legend of Zelda skin going on, which I think is pretty neat. You do have some skin options. You could change through default, all this stuff, and then the wallpaper. You can go through and select different ones, different Zelda ones. Some blurry, unfocused, or focused pictures. I mean, it is what it is. It's a lot of cool little options, but nothing to get hard about. You know what I'm saying? A few other options where you can change like the text size and stuff like that. You do have a text looker, like you can look at some text. File Explorer, MP3 player, text writer, and Explore installed stuffs. Here's all the emulators. We have FC EUX emulator, Gambit, GN, Geo, Neo Geo, the Game Boy Advance emulator, MAME for All, Envoy emulator, OpenBore emulator program, PCX SX rearmed, so PlayStation 1, Pico Drive for Sega Mega Drive or Genesis, and then SMS emulator for Master System, Super Nintendo SNES 9X 4D emulator, PC Engine, the Temper emulator, and then WQX emulator. I'm not sure what that one is. Now, here's the issue is we've got 4 face buttons, bro. We got an A, a B, and then a turbo A and B. Now, granted, the turbos can be used for other things in some of these games, so it's not a huge deal. But to incorporate Super Nintendo, which uses 6 buttons for a lot of games, PlayStation 1, which can use more than that, and not the system isn't capable of it. What the hell's the point, right? But I just wanted to point that out. Oh yeah, and then like you got to make sure you're hitting the right buttons, man. The Turbo A and B cycles through the options on the side, so we got to get back to the emulators. But let me just show you. Selecting a game, hit A, navigate to whatever folder has your games for that system. And then you can select and load it up from here. I don't really want to look at the gameplay on this. We'll look at it on the newest custom firmware, but I did want to show how it ships. Then you do get some installed applications. Chocolate Doom, you still need the WAD for that. It doesn't play. Digger, Heretic, Hexen plays, but it's another one of those ones where if you really want to play this game on here, and it's cool that it runs and it runs fairly well, you can't really play this with the included buttons, man. I mean, I guess you could remap like crazy because you can remap the buttons, but yeah, it's neat to see this. Not so much neat that I don't have enough buttons to really enjoy the game. So I did want to point that out. Now, how do I get out of here? Yeah, it's every system, every game is going to be different. Some weird King of Fighter game is on there. Mr. Drillix, which I guess is Mr. Driller. Pang, pretty fun game. Rot, I don't know what all this crap is. Streets of Rage Remake, pretty cool that this actually plays on here fairly well. A lot of people love this remake. And it's kind of freezing up a little bit. Some of these games take a moment. And excuse the crazy angle, you know what I'm saying? Not licensed by Sega. Don't get it twisted. Loading save state. Okay. I didn't know I had a save state, but there we go. The volume's pretty loud. As you can see in here, or I mean, you could hear. Now, yeah, it plays okay. It's kind of interesting. But here's the problem, is there's still screen tearing. There's going to be slowdown with some stuff. The system's just not capable enough. Now, some people have told me, okay, well, the newest custom firmware has newer emulators and stuff like that. From what I've seen so far, everything runs pretty much similar. It's just the newest custom firmware has more emulators, and the user interface is a lot nicer than what's included on this. So let's go ahead and get out of here. Don't know why it just instantly loaded a save state, but there we go. Tombstone, Wolfenstein 3D, a few options. So there you go. Let's go ahead and load up the newest custom firmware, which I did load up the same games on it. And I'm curious because I did make a save game for Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening. And I want to see if it's still on there, because once I reset and backed out of the game and came back in, it was there. But we've changed memory cards. It's got this new intro, which was kind of neat, Game Boy-esque. But I do want to see if my game actually saved, because I saved it, backed out, and it worked. Now that I've cycled everything, turned the system off, changed, memory cards, I want to see if it still exists. So it did save my setting for the display. I'll show you that in a second. Yes, my game is saved. So it does still support, game saves, whereas the previous version, you had to use save states, and I was not a fan of that. And the one thing, I did test this in the previous version, whatever emulator they were using, that Miu stuff, and the screen tearing was horrible. It was beyond bad in this game. On this version, it's not as bad. It's still there, just not as bad. So definitely to play like Game Boy Color games on this, I think is going to be okay for a lot of people. But it's still going to be there, just not quite as apparent. You hit the little return button or R button, takes you to some options. That's the one thing you got to keep in mind. Everything you go into, the buttons are going to be different. So for this, you have to hit TA to go into settings. You can show FPS. Select your scaler. If you do no scaling, puts the Gambit color border around it and makes it tiny as hell so you can't see it. Or you can go to full screen fast or smooth, and then 1.5x fast or smooth. I leave it to 1.5x. I think it looks fine, and you could save those settings. But I think Game Boy Color's not too bad, and the sound isn't too bad either for this device. Some games, arcade games in particular, the sound is awful. In particular, the sound is really bad on arcade stuff. A lot of other systems, just going to be hit and miss. I think Game Boy and Game Boy Color is okay. But let's just go ahead and get out of there. Show you the rest of this, how it works. Press start to go back. That kind of sucks donkey nuts. But here's all our emulators. I like the icons. It's a little easier to navigate through. You still use the turbo buttons to scroll through. It's the same thing. It just has more emulators. It has a few more things, and it just looks a little nicer. Our included apps, where are those at? They're right here. Cave Stories on there. I'm not sure if that runs or if you have to add it. No, it's there. So that's pretty cool. Looking pretty good. Let's just get out of there. See, I mean, I don't know what, how do you exit? Escape? Guess you just hit R again. But yeah, some of this is a little wonky getting in and out of stuff, but you do have a few extra things on here. But pretty neat with that. You can change the skins, the backgrounds, all the same stuff from the previous version. Let's take a look at NES. NES was pretty bad with screen tearing and whatnot. And that sound is ass. You press R to get into some settings here. Video settings. I guess we're not going to mess with that, but you can change your controls if you don't like the way it's set up. PAL is off. Wow. The sound is horrendous to me. Oh, wow. That's pretty choppy as... Oh, my God. Yeah, NES is choppy as hell. That's not playable, dude. Let's get out of that. Press start to go back. PlayStation. That's the one thing people will want to see. I do have Pepsiman on here. I've tested it on both firmwares and plays the same on both. It's the same emulator. Everything's the same. And it does load up and it works. It runs, I believe, I can't see the frames per second, but I think in-game, once you actually get into the game, it's probably about 15 to 20 frames per second. But there you go. The little full motion videos, there's a little clipping in them, but not bad. But it's another system where you don't have enough buttons to play these games. Pepsiman should be fine, though. Yeah, and the frame rate's going to jump around a bit. And I think, yeah, like in the options and whatnot, it's like 30 or higher, but in game it dips down quite a bit. But it's still playable. It works. The sound isn't too bad. The game is a bit slower than how I am used to playing it. But definitely we should do some more testing on PlayStation games in the future on this thing. But I'm impressed. I mean, it does play PlayStation games. But like I said, there's not enough buttons to support everything you would want to play. So if your game does run and runs decently well, if it requires more than these 4 face buttons, you are screwed. So let's get out of here. When you hit the return button on this firmware, I do notice like the PlayStation screen goes like inverted disco colors. On the previous firmware, it didn't do that. So let's exit out of that. Check something else out. Super Nintendo, which is another one you can't really play. Oops. Let's check out F-Zero. Looks good so far. Sound isn't too bad. There is a static in this speaker though. You can always hear it, but there is always a static with the speaker on this. When the game volume's up and it sounds okay, you don't hear the static too much. But let's jump into this. Beginner. Screw it. Oh my god. Skipping frames like a mofo. This looks like ass. I wonder if there's an option for that. There probably is. Hit select and start. See, every emulator is going to be different. That's why I say this is not so much frame skip. Can you just turn it off? That's why I'm saying this isn't necessarily going to be for a youngster. Because there's too much you can do. All right, it looks a little better. But now it seems like it's still running a little slow. But yeah, to get the best out of these games, you're really gonna have to tweak with settings here and there. But there's that. Let's exit out. Don't want to make this video too long. Just want to give you guys my impressions, but there we go. Some things seem to play okay. Some things just run like ass. Like NES for some odd reason runs like really bad. Sega Master System so far. Sega Master System's okay. Sounding okay. And it's looking all right. I'm not getting like any craziness with that. So that's a good thing. Again, this is going to be something where I'm not extremely excited about what I've seen with this so far. It being capable of doing more than what it's actually capable of doing is definitely a downer in my eyes. Like, I'm not going to use this to play Super Nintendo. I'm not going to use this to play PlayStation games. It's not able to. It doesn't have enough buttons, so it's kind of pointless. Now, to have the other systems, the handheld stuff, doesn't play too bad, but there's still issues with that frame skipping, some tearing, screen tearing and whatnot. Sure, you can tweak around with it a little bit. I've messed with it a bit before I recorded this, and I'm still not 100% happy with it. But just because I'm not happy with it doesn't mean others won't be. Some people are fine with some of these issues, especially for the price in that $30 range. Not too bad. I know there are other devices out there, and I'm curious to see them and try them out. But hey, this is where it is. The big question, if the BittBoy Federation of the world did not send this to me, would I have bought it? And the answer is going to be nope. I would not have bought it. I bought the previous version, and I was not satisfied. And with this not really being a major hardware revision or anything like that, I'm not interested. It's just a firmware upgrade for this version 3. And from what I see, the newest custom firmware that we're running right here, you could put it on your previous version. So yeah, I would pass until these guys, at least for me, until these guys do some kind of neat hardware revision. I mean, yeah, it's tiny. Some people like that, but I could see it being a little bigger, put some more buttons on here, get some LNRs or something, make these games that this thing supports actually playable, then I'll be interested. But there you go. My thoughts, my opinions only. I'm not one of those people, just because you send something to me, I'm going to love it. Just really going to depend on the quality and what I see out of it. And for me, it looks okay. The buttons are not too bad. A little too shiny though, man. A little too shiny. This stuff's all been talked about before, previous videos, but the buttons don't feel too bad. Doesn't feel like an original controller or anything. The start and select sucks butt. They're too flush with here. You can't hit both of them at the same time a lot of times. In some systems, like you use that to exit out of a game. And in some games, like Game Boy Color, for like Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening, if you hit select and start A and B, you can save your game. With this, it doesn't register. It doesn't work for some reason. I think maybe because the volume up and down combo, where you hold select and hit the A or B, something negates that. So any game that you would need that doesn't seem to work. But oops, I'm not trying to break this thing, I promise. But there you guys go. Really do appreciate y'all hanging out with me. I really love my portable gaming, but I think for now I'm gonna have to be sticking to this guy. Midwest embedded modded Game Boy Color. I'm happy with this, not so much with this, but I still want an option like this to load up my Atari Lynx, Game Gear, Game Boy Color, so on and so forth, and plays it decently well. And this is getting there, but not quite yet for me anyway. But there you go. Really do appreciate it. With that said, guys, I will catch y'all next time. Peace out, bye-byes, and boom. Thumbs up. Bye.